Okay, so my question was, is this a little homoerotic Top Gun segment, or is this a little power play?
Oh no, that was a power play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Season 2 is not going to have that because I can't really lift weights anymore. Probably won't be taking the shirt off in season 2.
Gosh, your fans will be disappointed.
Huge.
So,
all those hot boys out there are going to be let down.
Thanks for joining us as we peek behind the curtain of a grunt's life, where we dive deep into the psychology of our #1 show with special guest Lauren Rich, a licensed clinical therapist who has been working with combat veterans for over a decade. Here, we'll discuss the ways in which the military mindset serves to win wars, but isn't as helpful for good mental health post-service. We'll also do a character analysis of Lieutenant Murphy, giving insight into his mindset and kind of psychotic behavior. Kind of. So welcome to the path out of hell, boys and girls.
And we're back. Back for another episode with the famous Lauren Rich. And here we're going to talk about episode 6 and 7.
we're going to transition from 6 into 7. And 6 doesn't have a whole lot, but it has a couple of meaty pieces. And the first is when the CO finds out that Murphy has killed, quote unquote, a civilian.
You shot a fucking civilian? And then what?
Well, then he went to go visit Allah.
The CO is so concerned with, again, the image and what it's going to do to his career, and fails to see that we went from a civilian to an enemy combatant. So what does that do to Murphy?
Pisses him off. It makes him frustrated again. It fucks his mind.
You killed a fucking civilian.
-6, I did not kill a civilian. I killed an enemy combatant who tried to fucking stab me in the back.
Again, all part of the mind fuck of a counterinsurgency is that someone who is a civilian, who's labeled good. They're one of the good people that we're here to help. In a split second, and quite often, they'll pick up an AK in the middle of a field and give you a burst and drop the AK, and then stand there like nothing happened. Right? That's the kind of shit that they did. And so what does that do to your mind? If you're one of the people, one of the Marines or soldiers who are there to help them, it's just, your mind is like, what? What the fuck is going on here?
So this exact example doesn't happen all the time, but examples just like that happen all the time, where we run into civilians or we're roof hopping because we're in the middle of a mission, and we happen upon this family that's sleeping on top of the roof, and everything's fine until he reaches for your gun. And then everything's not fine. And we have to make major decisions. And that is exactly what happens here with the shift.
Unfucking believable one. Now we're killing civilians.
Poor Jones again. And the fact that Murphy stands there in complete and total irreverence and says,
Yeah. Looky here, killer. My bad.
little too soon. Just a little too soon. Part of that is when we go to command for support, we expect them to understand our point of view, and the CO just does not want to hear it, more importantly, does not get it.
One, be advised, Dave and myself are going to take a little trip out there to see what the fuck's going on with your platoon, because obviously you're out of control. How copy?
Really, the translation in that is, you're incompetent, so I'm going to come micromanage you.
Yep.
All that does is piss people off even more.
You have lost my trust.
Yes, absolutely. You're incompetent, so I'm going to come tell you how to do your job.
Yep.
That's the message. That doesn't make it reality.
All right.
How copy?
Let's make sure we have a good understanding of the truth.
1, how copy?
Solid copy, 6.
This is part of why I can't take the military seriously. We come into this and we've got the core values of honor, courage, commitment, and integrity. We're telling the truth, and they're totally important. It'd be great if everyone abided by them, but that's just not the reality. And the reality is that when you're out there on the front lines, a lot of fucking shit happens. Like a lot of crazy, wild shit. My personal experience was nothing compared to like what dudes in Iraq experienced, going out to the wild, wild west of Iraq. even deployments before mine. I mean, this deployment here, which was Fox Company 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines in 2008 to now, that was a real deployment that John Forsyth, one of our guys, one of the writers of the show, was on. His deployment had way more stuff go on in the Wild West, in the boonies, far away from command where no one's going to know. And in those instances, the guys will band together and they'll be like, okay, what's our story?
And then it becomes our secret. Yeah, and no one can know. And I
To the grave.
Yeah, and I have guys who come in and that's killing them.
Yeah.
You know, they have a self-fulfilling prophecy of dying depressed, alone, and as alcoholics because they're punishing themselves for what they did over there. And they can't share that with anybody else because it wasn't supposed to ever happen anyway. And you know, that is the context of war. Government as a whole, if you've ever been to the J. Edgar Hoover building, there's a courtyard there and it blatantly says on the wall in big, huge letters, fidelity, bravery, integrity. And so this concept is preached everywhere in law enforcement and in military life. And yet sometimes we end up doing none of those things, all to protect other people. So when he says, and I don't fault him for that, I almost have to give Murphy kudos because he really is trying to make sure that Jones is okay. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. So he's willing to take that bullet, and that really is good leadership.
As a platoon commander, he lived with the mindset that I did as a platoon commander, which is, I'm not here for the long haul. So if I got to take the heat for something, I don't give a fuck.
Well, more importantly, the mindset is, you're mine.
Yeah.
I'm yours.
Yeah.
You know, we are together. This is a brotherhood. We watch out for each other.
Yeah.
And he's willing to take the heat so that Jones doesn't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Better me than you.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's fucking
Exactly.
young kid struggling with all this shit. He's not going to know how to deal with this stuff. He's not going to know how to defend himself in a room full of sergeant majors and officers questioning him. Where if he's like,
Yeah.
I'll
take it.
I'll handle my business with anyone
Yeah.
who wants to come question me about what the fuck went down here. And I had kind of that mentality as a lieutenant, very, very arrogant. I was older. I was almost 30 years old.
Sometimes that's a benefit.
With the majority of the lieutenants I know who were older, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one quick statement on that before we wrap up episode 7. Would anyone ever enlist if the minimum enlistment age was 40?
Would they enlist?
If the minimum age were 40?
I think the numbers would be really low.
Yeah. By that point, you have a frontal lobe. You think independently. You have a greater perspective of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I am all for the older enlisted or the older officer. I think they bring a lot to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's more important for officers, but for the enlisted, I mean, you need a bunch of stupid fucks to go take that hill 6 times.
Yes. Yes. To a certain extent, yes.
Hoorah, Marine.
What the fuck is going on with this post? Total fucking respect.
So here we are, episode 7. What do we got?
Back for more punishment. So we're back with the CO. We get to the point where I think one of the most valuable pieces is where the CO approaches Murphy. And it's obviously awkward. He's just an awkward person. But when you're rolling on the ground in the dirt with that guy, after Murphy stands up, he calls him Vince.
How's it going, Vince? Never better, 6. Just teaching these guys how to whip some ass. Bruh?
Almost in a weak attempt to build rapport.
Yeah.
And then they get in the tent and he goes back to being Murphy.
Yep.
Of all times, he should be Vince. It should be when they're in the hooch, talking it out. So they go in, and I have to ask, was taking your shirt off intentional?
Yeah.
Was that just because you were filthy, or was that for a deeper reason?
No. What I wanted to do was I wanted to look ripped as shit, and I wanted him to be intimidated when he saw that. But we didn't film it that way.
Okay, so my question was, is this a little homoerotic Top Gun segment, or is this a little power play?
Oh, no, that was a power play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Season 2 is not going to have that because I can't really lift weights anymore. So I probably won't be taking the shirt off in season 2.
Gosh,
Bummer.
your fans will be disappointed.
Huge.
So-
all those hot boys out there are going to be let down.
Yes. So Murphy comes in, there's a display of power, and then the CO says,
So how'd
Managed to fuck this up, Murphy.
Six. I think we're on 2 different pages about what happened here.
There's only one page, Murphy, and that's the page where you murdered a fucking civilian.
An automatic slam.
Yeah.
And Murphy turns around and says, I think we're on different pages about this. How often did you feel like you were on a different page with somebody in leadership?
With my CO, quite often.
Quite often. On
Quite
small
often.
things, large things?
It was the planning of combat operations. I'm like, why aren't you, as my company commander, delivering a brilliant fucking warning order or just a combat order to your lieutenants and allowing us to then refine the plan and then develop it together? Like, what fucking world are we living in when you can't do the basics of being an infantry officer? And so that was like, what the is going on? So the lieutenants, we would come together and we would just rewrite the plans. And then we'd present it to him and he'd be like, great, exactly what I wanted. So I knew you guys would do it. You know, like, and it was like, you know, on one hand, he seems reasonable by accepting what we had done. But on the other hand, it's completely pathetic. Because if a squad leader, and this was my argument at the end of my deployment when I wrote a letter to the battalion executive officer telling him, you cannot give my company commander a Bronze Star.
Oh.
And I said, if one of my squad leaders, I know, in the past, one of my squad leaders had gone to ISLIC, the infantry squad leaders course, which was a very tough course. And if he did deliver combat orders that were below the standard, and he was kicked out of the course, right? So now how the fuck is a captain, a company commander, delivering a combat order that would have gotten him booted from squad leaders course? How was that guy, for one, not being fired, and for two, how the fuck is he getting a Bronze Star? I was beside myself. I wrote a 10-page letter to the battalion XO.
Did anyone above him know that that was happening? That his orders were that poor?
Oh yeah, because he
They
delivered
already-
in front of the battalion commander.
And they still let it slide?
Well, the battalion commander, he said, Captain, you know what? I think we need to put some more time into this. We need some tactical control measures. I think your boys deserve that. I think your boys, tactical control measure, it's the basic thing you put on the fucking map. Like, you know, here's where we land, here's our assault position, here's casualty collection points, checkpoints, you name it. He didn't even have that shit on the map. He's like, I think your boys deserve that. And I remember thinking to myself, that's some bitch-ass way to hold your officer accountable. He just did something disgusting in front of the entire battalion staff, and that's it. Should have reamed his fucking ass.
But by you doing his job, you enabled him to be incompetent. Because you took care of it, he never learned.
Well, the option is we all die.
I know that's the option. But my point is that you enabled him to continue to be incompetent.
What should I have done?
You should have done what you did. The bad part is that there really is no winning, because we don't want people to die.
Oh, yeah.
But unless leadership is willing to hold people accountable, things will never change. I mean, again, I hate to say this in such a broad, overarching manner, but this is government. You know, this is exactly how the government runs. And,
Government standard is...
and we promote the incompetent. And so he will rise to be a full bird, I have no doubt. And he will think that it's because of his own greatness. And this guy...
Time out. 2 of the officers who I mercilessly crushed in my book resigned from the United States Marine Corps.
Before or after your book?
After my book. One of them, Major Tard, said when he was about to get battalion command, he was literally, everyone in the battalion, they would mock him over the radio. This guy was such a tard. And he said, I do not feel fit to lead. And I resigned my commission.
Wow.
When I heard that, boy, did I celebrate hard.
That takes guts.
What? I know. I'm
That
just like,
takes
wow,
guts.
that's the best decision he made as a fucking infantry officer.
Yes.
Was to acknowledge he doesn't have what it takes.
Yes, I can't tell you
Courageous.
how many times, I cannot tell you how many times I sat in government meetings and thought, how did this fucktard get promoted?
Yeah.
You know, and that's not a clinical term by any means, but it just amazes me how we continually promote the incompetent, and part of it is because they're just out for the image, and so on paper they look great. anything beyond paper, there's nothing of depth or substance. Yeah. So in this portion, where he comes up and he's really territorial about it. I mean, the conversation is in Murphy's hooch. This is his turf, so to speak. And he has the balls to come in there and say that you fucked it up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here to clean up your mess. And then he goes on to say,
Why the fuck would you promise a random Afghan civilian that we were gonna protect him and his family? Who the fuck gave you permission to promise some bullshit like that?
Don't do that, Six.
Don't do what, Lieutenant? You ordering me now?
I'm not ordering you, but I'm telling you, don't fucking do that.
who gave you permission or authority to tell that man that we would move him?
Oh, yeah. That
Yes.
really set Murphy off.
Yes.
That was like, you've got to be fucking
Kidding me. Yeah.
This
And the
guy's
fact that
gonna-
he tries to deny it.
Let me make myself clear. I never told you to promise that civilian anything. I told you to tell him we would do what we could, but I never said to promise anything.
So this is how people end up hating the government, because they feel completely fucked over by leadership. They have been betrayed and, more importantly, abandoned. And the message that's sent is that you're not important. Your life isn't important. The enemy, quote unquote, or civilian is more important. And the language that he uses, he says you murdered a civilian. Well, first of all, there's a huge difference between murder and kill. And he didn't murder anybody. He killed somebody who actively tried to take his life.
Yeah.
That is completely different. But the CO does not see it that way. And the insult when you say, or when Murphy says,
I don't know what the fuck kind of Asperger's you've been dealing with your whole life, but you're just about as dumb as my retarded cousin. I can't even.
while an insult, a narcissistic personality like that is still not going to be really offended, because they're so in love with their greatness, it really doesn't matter what you think, because you're inferior and less than.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a complex relationship. And then when Murphy doesn't cave, he says, we're going to send the IG to check things out.
If civilians are being murdered on your base, I wonder what else is going on here. And if I'm wondering what else is going on here, the IG might be wondering too.
Got nothing to hide, Six. Go ahead and get the fucking IG.
That was a power play by the CEO.
Intimidation.
The CEO, yeah.
Yes.
Like, oh, you want to be a tough guy, Lieutenant? Okay, I'm going to come
I'll
down
show
on
you. Yeah. And I'm going to do it with policy. I will find a way. You know, and this is what, if we're not careful, will strip Murphy of self-esteem and self-worth, of the ability to trust people. And so when guys get out and then they go into the civilian workforce and they feel like they can't trust leadership, they end up leaving jobs prematurely. They don't stay anywhere long. I can't trust anybody that I work with. And you know, in particular, it can and does seep into your marriage too at times. And so you may end up being divorced, because not all wives can handle major issues like this after you come back from deployment, and that's not necessarily a fault. It's just some of them are not able to handle that, and you feel abandoned yet again. And so the theme of your adult life, or the theme of your military service, is I'm not wanted, or abandonment, right? Because leadership has abandoned me, my wife and kids have abandoned me, and so on and so on.
Now, that is not Lieutenant Murphy, but
No,
I can
no.
understand sentiment.
Yes.
Murphy doesn't have a wife,
Yes,
doesn't have
correct.
kids, and he doesn't feel those feelings of abandonment. Because
Well, he doesn't
stays-
feels anything.
No,
Yes.
he doesn't. All he feels is joy at killing.
Well, I take that back. He feels he feels betrayal. he feels
Sure.
that. Yeah.
But the way he processes things, which is similar to me, is that I will find a way to win.
Yeah,
Like, I will find some scenario where I can watch you die,
yes.
and I'll win.
And as for the CO, you know, he is ready to sacrifice Murphy on the altar of careerism. That's what it's all about for him. It doesn't matter who I have to step on or who I have to crush to get to what I want. I'll sacrifice all of you.
Yeah.
And that is a repeat theme for a lot of people. Yeah, it really
In
is.
terms of people that you've spoken with.
Oh, I think across the board. Go read some books. Read some infantry books. Probably one of the most popular ones. Did you read Dog Company at all?
No.
Oh my
Is
gosh.
that Korea?
Oh no, it's present day It's present day life. It's in Afghanistan.
Huh.
Yeah. And it is outright abandonment by leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I won't ruin it, but it is a good read, and it kind of hits back home to what the CO is putting Murphy through. And as far as the CO goes, when people say that some people just don't get it, they don't get it, the way an observing ego works is that you and I have an observing ego that kind of sits in the corner, and it tells us when to change our behavior, how to adjust, how to be appropriate in certain scenarios. The observing ego is the they. So when people say they just don't get it, there is no observing ego for the CO. He does not have that. Okay? Some people just don't have that. So when you say they don't get it, there is no they to get it. Okay? There is no observing ego to say, I need to change my behavior. Or that wasn't received well, maybe I should say it differently next time. Or how does my communication style impact Murphy? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't think that. They
They
just
don't-
think
yes.
you will bend to my way.
Yes, they have zero insight into their own behavior.
Yeah. One of the things that I don't like about the officer corps, and this isn't particular to commissioned officers, because you see this in staff and COs, non-commissioned officers as well. But this belief that when they walk into a room, everybody is dying to hear what they have to say. And so many of these officers that I remember rubbing me wrong, it was just like they believed that because they were the battalion commander and they've got the staff of captains that are sucking their dick everywhere they go.
Carls, bunch of Carls.
Bunch of Carls. They believe that it's all of this cocksucking done by the people beneath them is genuine. They're not smart enough to see this guy's just kissing my ass because I write his fit rep. They're not smart enough to realize this guy doesn't give a fuck about the story that I'm telling, about the fucking crew team or this fucking stupid ass thing that I did. My battalion commander, when he was, all of his jobs were garrison. His whole career was a fucking garrison. He was going to lead us in combat. It can be done, but not with this fucking guy. And so, I just remember seeing these officers when they would tell stories and they would see these fake laughs by these other captains and shit. They genuinely feel good about themselves. And
It's all about ego.
Yeah.
Mine is bigger than yours.
it's
Which
such
we
a
literally
bullshit.
see in the next episode.
Yeah. So bam. So that was 7.
was
Wow.
7.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in there. We spoke a lot about the officer's ego, which if there's anything that I would like to influence for the better, well, there are many things, but it is an improvement in officer culture.
My best advice to officers is don't ask your subordinates to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. If you're not willing to do it, don't ask them to do it.
All right. So that was episode 6 and 7. That was outstanding. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was valuable, watching and listening. And now we're going to get into episode 8 next time.
Next time.
Thanks for watching and listening. Peace, love, and war.